For sure, as long as you know, I still can't believe people just watched Asia play all year. Because I know a lot of folks were saying she should have been MVP based on the regular season alone. But we can't all see things the same way, can we? It's okay though. I got the finals MVP, and that one's the real deal. I appreciate that one, but 4th place, that was crazy. I know who voted for me though. And honestly, Asia better be on the 2K cover next year and have some fire signature shoes. No doubt about that. From 4th place to 1st, that's a big leap. Just recently, the betting odds dropped, and people are talking about whether Asia Wilson's reign is over. Caitlin Clark is already making waves and making history in the WNBA. But here's the twist. The odds makers have predicted Caitlin Clark as the favorite to win the 2025 WNBA MVP. So, let's break this down because this isn't just another random opinion. First off, let's be totally honest about Asia Wilson. Some of these conversations around her MVP race are honestly some of the most ridiculous ones in sports. The numbers don't lie. MGM just released their 2025 MVP odds, and Caitlin Clark is sitting at plus 250, just behind Asia Wilson's plus 185. This isn't just hype. It's backed by Clark's incredible rookie season, which has made the odds makers rethink everything they knew about rookie development. So what would need to happen for Caitlin Clark to surpass Asia in the MVP race? Well, Asia would probably have to stop playing for the rest of the season, honestly. But let's break down why this prediction carries some serious weight. Caitlin Clark finished 4th in MVP voting as a rookie. And that's not just impressive, it's historic. Only one other player in WNBA history has finished in the top 4 of MVP voting in their rookie season, and that player is Candace Parker in 2008. When you look at Caitlin Clark's career trajectory, the similarities between her and Candace Parker are striking. And in some areas, Clark's numbers are even better. Her rookie season was a tale of adaptation and growth that MVP voters can't ignore. Her first 20 games showed promise, but didn't hint at what was to come. She averaged 16 points and 7 assists. Solid numbers, but nothing extraordinary for a rookie. But Caitlin Clark isn't just any rookie. Something changed after the Olympic break. That's when she truly transformed from a rookie sensation into an MVP contender. In the final 18 games of the season, Clark exploded, averaging 23.6 points per game. This wasn't just a hot streak. She had figured out WNBA defenses, improved her shot selection, and the game itself slowed down for her. Veterans around the league noticed the shift, and even Diana Taurasi, not known for handing out praise easily, called Clark's development one of the most impressive rookie performances she'd ever seen. Now, Clark is working with a new head coach, Stephanie White, and this is where things get really interesting. White isn't just any coach. She's known for maximizing offensive talent, and her system, built around quick decisions and constant movement, fits perfectly with Clark's strengths. Early practice footage shows them working specifically on Clark's decision-making in traffic, addressing the biggest weakness from her last season. Right now, Caitlin Clark is playing out of her mind. People are noticing, and she's taking her game to a whole new level. Meanwhile, Asia Wilson plays on a super team, and the one thing that needs to be addressed head-on is her turnover issue. That's something she's going to have to focus on if she wants to keep her MVP spot secure. This next part is crucial to Caitlin Clark's MVP case. Last season, she averaged 5.6 turnovers per game, leading the league. But here's where context matters. She handled the ball more than any rookie in WNBA history. The Fever ran their entire offense through her from day one. Even veteran point guards would struggle with that kind of responsibility. Now, Coach Stephanie White is already implementing changes to address this. They're working on off-ball movement to reduce Clark's time under pressure. Plus, they're adding secondary ball handlers to help share the load. These adjustments should naturally lower Clark's turnover numbers without sacrificing her aggressive playmaking style. Let's talk about her shooting efficiency, too. Last season, Clark shot 41% from the field and 30% from three-point range. At first glance, those numbers might seem concerning, But when you dig deeper, you'll see something remarkable. She faced more double teams than any guard in the league, with teams designing entire defensive strategies to stop her. Despite that, she still managed to score nearly 20 points per game. Now, compare that to A'ja Wilson, who plays on a team loaded with talent. The Aces have won back-to-back championships. That makes Wilson's job easier, especially given the pieces around her. But Clark, she doesn't have those same advantages, and yet she's doing things that are just as impressive. With White's new offensive system, Clark's shooting percentages are likely to improve significantly. The spacing will be better, and the ball movement will be crisper. Clark won't have to force as many shots late in the shot clock. We're already seeing hints of this in practice footage, where Clark is focusing more on catch-and-shoot opportunities rather than always creating off the dribble. The Fever's overall improvement also plays a huge role in Clark's MVP case. If you look at past MVP winners, they almost always come from the top for teams. Indiana's win total jumped significantly during Clark's rookie year, but they still need to take another step forward. White's arrival could be the catalyst for this growth. Her track record of developing young talent suggests that the entire team will benefit from her system. But here's the thing, if Caitlin Clark had the pieces around her that A'ja Wilson has, it wouldn't be a debate. She'd be the top MVP contender, hands down. Sure, last season, Indiana was 13-27, but this year, they're already 13-15. The improvement has been noticeable, especially in the last few games. Caitlin Clark looks like a completely different player, and the team does too. She did the work during the All-Star break, telling her team, "I'm going to the lab. I'm focusing on getting better." What really sets Clark apart in this MVP race is her impact beyond just traditional stats. TV ratings for Fever games doubled when she played. Plus, her jersey became the highest-selling rookie jersey in WNBA history. Caitlin Clark is bringing new viewers to the league at the pace not seen since Candace Parker's rookie season. MVP voters definitely take these factors into account, even if they don't show up directly in the box score. Former MVPs have noticed too. Aylin Adeldun recently commented that Clark's playing style reminds her of herself at that age, but with better passing ability. Even Sue Bird mentioned that defending Clark requires a level of game planning unlike any other young player she's faced. These endorsements from elite players matter when it comes to MVP voting. Looking at Clark's late season surge more closely, the numbers become even more impressive. In the final month of the season, Clark led all guards in fourth quarter scoring. Her clutch shooting percentage jumped to 45%. It wasn't just about piling up stats. She was winning games, and that's exactly what MVP voters look for. The Olympic break proved crucial for Clark's development. It gave her time to study film, adjust to the WNBA's pace, and work on specific weaknesses. When she came back, it was clear she had a new understanding of when to attack and when to facilitate. Her pick-and-roll chemistry with Aaliyah Boston improved dramatically, making them one of the league's most efficient duos in the final stretch. Now, the competition for MVP isn't just fierce, it's historically loaded. A'ja Wilson is the current favorite at plus 185. And for good reason. She's dominated the league for years. However, several factors suggest that Clark could overcome the odds and make history. Let's start with Wilson's situation. The Aces lost key pieces in free agency, and their depth isn't what it was during their championship runs. While Wilson remains elite, her supporting cast changes might affect her numbers. MVP voters pay attention to this. They look at both team success and individual statistics. On the other hand, Clark enters her second season with an improved roster. The Fever added veteran shooters to space the floor, and they brought in experienced defenders to ease the defensive burden. Most importantly, they hired Stephanie White, whose offensive system perfectly matches Clark's strengths. Now we're starting to see the difference. Clark is saying, "I'm going to chase that MVP because nobody's stopping me." In terms of playoff implications, Clark has more to fight for than just Wilson. There are other players who are also in the running, like Breanna Stewart and Jonquel Jones, both of whom have had impressive seasons. But looking at past MVP winners and their second seasons tells us something interesting. The leap from year one to year two often defines careers. Candace Parker did it in 2008. Aelina Deldun almost did it. Breena Stewart showed similar growth. Clark is poised to take that same leap, and if she does, we might be witnessing the beginning of something special. Caitlin Clark's rookie numbers already rival or exceed those of some of the league's top players at the same stage in their careers. But it's not just her on-court performance that strengthens her MVP case this season. The Fever will play 15 nationally televised games, nearly double last year's total. MVP races aren't won just by stats. They're often shaped by memorable moments that voters can't ignore. More national exposure means more opportunities for Clark to make those moments. Coach Stephanie White is already reshaping the offense to take full advantage of Clark's unique abilities. They're installing plays that use her long-range shooting to create space for her teammates, while developing quick-hitting plays to minimize her time handling the ball under pressure. Early practice footage shows a more diverse offensive approach than last season, which should naturally help reduce her turnover numbers. Last year, Clark averaged 5.6 turnovers per game, leading the league. But as we mentioned, context is important. She handled the ball more than any rookie in WNBA history, and the new system spreads playmaking responsibilities more evenly across the team. Early scrimmages show Clark playing more off-ball and finding shots in rhythm, instead of always having to create under pressure. This should lead to a dramatic improvement in her shooting efficiency. Clark's 41% field goal percentage and 34% from three-point range last season came while she was constantly double-teamed. Now, with more space to operate, and with the Fever adding shooters specifically to prevent defenses from focusing solely on her, Clark's growing chemistry with Aaliyah Boston could push both players into MVP consideration. Their pick-and-roll efficiency in the final month of last season rivaled any duo in the league, and with a full off-season together, plus White's offensive tweaks, they should only get better. Market impact plays a role in MVP voting, whether voters admit it or not. Clark is already the most marketable player in the league. TV ratings for Fever games have spiked when she's playing, and her social media engagement dwarfs that of other stars. These factors subtly influence voters' perception of a player's value to the league, making Clark even more attractive in the MVP race. Looking at the schedule, the early difficulty could actually help her case. The Fever face 7 playoff teams in their first 10 games. If Clark leads them to a strong start against this tough competition, the MVP narrative will gain momentum early in the season. Early season momentum often plays a huge role in MVP races, and Coach White is already setting expectations high. In recent interviews, she's spoken about Clark in the context of all-time greats. White is implementing offensive sets that were successful with Diana Taurasi in Phoenix, and the comparison is clear. She believes Clark has the potential to reach that elite level. Statistical projections back up Clark's MVP case. Analytics models predict her scoring to rise to around 25 points per game, and her assist numbers should stay high, even with reduced turnovers. Efficiency metrics also show significant improvement thanks to better spacing and a system that fits her strengths. The intangibles also favor Clark. Her work ethic is already legendary among teammates. She's usually the first in the gym and the last to leave. Veterans have mentioned her film study habits unprompted, traits that often lead to major second-year improvements. This MVP race is only getting more intense. Drop a comment with your prediction and hit subscribe to stay updated on every development as the season unfolds. The league's marketing has already positioned Clark as the future face of the WNBA. While this doesn't directly influence MVP voting, it creates a narrative framework that voters subconsciously consider. If Clark performs at an elite level, this narrative advantage could play a role in tight voting. Recent rule changes might benefit Clark's style too. The emphasis on perimeter freedom of movement helps players who create off the dribble, like Clark. Her ability to draw fouls from three-point range has become even more valuable under current officiating trends. The Fever's improved bench could also help Clark's MVP case. Better rest patterns should lead to stronger fourth-quarter performances. Last year, her efficiency dropped late in games due to heavy minutes, but this season, They'll be able to manage her workload more effectively while maintaining team success. White's offense now includes more off-ball screens and misdirection actions designed to free Clark for shots. These plays should lead to higher percentage looks without sacrificing volume. When looking at MVP voting patterns, narrative matters just as much as numbers. Clark's potential to become the youngest MVP since Candace Parker creates a compelling story. If she leads the Fever to the playoffs while putting up elite numbers, the narrative practically writes itself. Competition from younger stars adds another layer to Clark's MVP case. Players like Ryan Howard and Nelissa Smith are emerging as elite talents, but Clark's ability to elevate her teammates sets her apart. Her assist numbers don't just show playmaking skill, they demonstrate leadership. The Fever's marketing department is already preparing for the possibility of Clark winning MVP. They're planning special MVP campaign nights, and local sponsors are creating content around her historic chase. The organization believes that not only is this possible, it's probable. International attention also adds a new dimension. Clark's global following is growing daily, and WNBA League Pass subscriptions in Europe spiked after her late season surge. MVP voters consider global impact, especially as the league expands its international presence. Analytics teams across the league project significant improvements in Clark's efficiency metrics. Her shot selection analysis shows better decision-making, even in preseason workouts. The game is slowing down for Clark, which typically leads to better shooting percentages and fewer turnover. Her off-season conditioning program focused specifically on late-game endurance, and teammates report she's noticeably stronger. This physical development should help her maintain performance levels throughout the grueling WNBA schedule. Jersey sales and ticket demand continue setting records. While these factors don't directly influence MVP voting, they create an atmosphere of expectation that voters can't ignore. The league's growth partially depends on Clark's success. Practice footage also shows improvements in her defense. While defense isn't her primary strength, even small improvements here strengthen her MVP case. Complete players tend to earn more voter respect than offensive specialists, and a more well-rounded game will help her stand out. The Fever's potential playoff push could be the final piece. MVS rarely come from non-playoff teams, and if Clark leads Indiana to the postseason while maintaining elite numbers, the MVP award becomes increasingly likely. Historical voting patterns suggest timing matters. Early season performance often carries extra weight in building the MVP narrative. If Clark starts hot, the MVP conversation will center around her by midseason. The MVP race starts now. Drop a comment with your prediction and hit subscribe to stay updated on Clark's historic season. Next week, we'll break down the exact changes Coach White is making to unlock Clark's full potential.